There we are. All right. We're live. Hello. Welcome back. I think this is episode 131 of this damn thing. It's been a while, and we're switching it up to talk about tassing. So, you know, haven't done that much. There's been a few RTA runners on here, but now we have the bot. There he is in the background. It's him. Look at him. Beautiful. And of course, the keeper, dwangoAC. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
All right. Um, just having some tech stuff. All right. I think everything's
Oh,
good
there's
though.
always tech stuff.
Oh my gosh. You have. Well, you probably have a good idea actually. Never mind. So.
I have a very good idea.
Oh yeah. But I think we're good. I think we're good. We're gaming. Um. Well, anyway, enough about me trying to figure stuff out here. How about what you do? What is it?
That's an open-ended question. How far back do you want me to go?
Well, usually we start from the beginning here, so if we're in it for the
That's
long
a
run,
reasonable place
so
to
be
start.
it.
Okay, well, I was born at a very early
Ah,
age,
perfect.
and okay. Um, that's an old joke, and my son is rolling his eyes because he has heard it before. Um, but anyway, hi, I'm dwangoAC, keeper of Taskbot. If you've never seen me before, I have a very weird niche on the internet. Oops, and I have a microphone I like to bump. I'm so sorry. Sorry, microphone. Let me try that again. I'm dwangoAC, keeper of Taskbot. If you've never seen me before, I'm largely known for doing really silly things by playing back tool-assisted speedruns on a real video game console using this guy back here. This is Taskbot. Using Taskbot as our mascot, he holds various different what we call replay devices, and he pretends to be a controller and presses buttons perfectly. I'll be explaining all of those things in much more detail, but that's the high level. Is I play video games for charity at events like Games Done Quick, and I have the dubious honor, I think it's still there, of having done more runs at Games Done Quick than anybody else. It's just weird.
Well, I mean, Taskbot does all the work, right? I mean,
Yeah, that duality is certainly a challenge.
hmm yeah. I love the animations in his eyes.
That was not an easy process. We'll
Well,
get into him too
oh,
at
of
some
course.
point in the
I know there's
conversation.
been some remodels and revisions on the mascot himself, so.
Yep, yep. Here's where we started.
Uh,
Was a Rob Robot just like this with
mhm.
Legos. This is not TaskBot. This isn't even the original TaskBot frame. I donated the original TaskBot frame to the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester.
Ooh.
But this is an actual honest to goodness Rob Robot with the claws, which is kind of hard to come by. And the original TaskBot was one of these with Legos around the hands. These were missing, and that's a great way to irritate two companies at the same time.
Perfect. Get to kill two birds with one stone. Love to see it.
It's certainly a great way to get sued.
Ooh.
Oh, by the way, I'm an EFF member just in case Nintendo comes after me, but the optics wouldn't be so great for them. Anyway,
Mm.
but yeah, we did redesign TaskBot. More on that in a second. We should probably back up a little bit.
Yeah, getting off track here. Go on.
Alrighty. Okay, so your audience generally knows typical RTA speedrunning, right?
Oh, I should hope so.
What is the familiarity with tool-assisted speedruns in your audience and yourself, for that matter?
Well, I know people create uh, runs using uh, just a bunch of tools in an emulator to then play back inputs perfectly. So, obviously, no AI involved or anything, just a full on creation. Like, it's just a creative outlet. You're just not doing the inputs in real time.
Yeah, and I want to expand on that a little bit. So let me back up just a touch. A couple quick housekeeping things. First of all, I do apologize if I cough into a microphone or have to mute suddenly. I am fighting a cold. Another housekeeping item, I have actually been dealing with a pretty serious health issue for the last while, and I haven't been able to stream myself. This is probably the first time I've been on Twitch directly in quite some time. So this might be a little bit of a surprise for some folks to see me. It's I'm hoping to get back out there and stream again in a bit, but for the moment, I'm just making it through.
Mhm.
Um, as far as the TAS side of things, myself, I got interested in tool-assisted speedruns all the way back in the 90s, believe it or not. I was
Oh.
an early Doom player. My name of dwangoAC actually comes from the Dwango gaming network. In the 90s, I ended up conniving my way into being a moderator. They didn't realize how young I was. I was a teenager at the time, and no one knew online that I was that young. So I ended up becoming a moderator of the Denver DWANGO server with the username AC, hence me being dwangoAC. Um, Doom happened to have an engine inside of it that allowed recording what they called demo files sometimes, or other types of file format names, but it was basically a recording of your playthrough. And people worked out that you could use tools to play the game in, well, less than real time, and splice together multiple segments and show off Doom Done Quick, and then it became Doom Done Quicker and Quickest and all these other different variants. So that was kind of the real original origin of tool-assisted speedruns, of using tools to assist a speedrun aspect. But the first time that speedruns really started to be, or tool-assisted speedruns really started to be notable and rather disruptive was in 2003, in the pre-YouTube era, when Morimoto released a video that was circulated in WMV format around various file share sites. It was a Super Mario Bros. With two S's 3 time attack video, largely in Japanese with very little context. And it showed these crazy things like Mario getting really close to enemies and not dying, getting 99 lives, dancing in circles around fireballs. It was crazy to watch. Uh, it didn't have enough context for people to understand what they were seeing. What Morimoto had actually done is use the Fantasia NES emulator, the Nintendo Entertainment System emulator named Fantasia, which was not very accurate at the time. It had some sound glitches and some other characteristics that weren't great. The only abilities at the time were the ability to make a save state and restore back to that save state, basically making a snapshot in time and being able to do a re-record by backing up and trying again from that point. And the only thing he was using really was slow motion at the time. It did not have enough context for people to understand that it was made with tools, and it confused and annoyed a lot of people, specifically Radix of Speed Demo's archive back at the time of that video being released. SDA was the hub for speedrunning. And it created a bit of a stir because at that time, Morimoto's TAS of Super Mario Bros. 3 was a new beast that most people had never really encountered before. And without the context of it saying that it was a tool assisted speedrun, it annoyed a lot of people because it looked like it was being passed off as if it were human effort. Now, the actual page in Japanese did clarify a lot of these elements, but in the English world, no one really understood that, and translation tools were not very adept in 2003, so it was a lot less accessible to understand the context of what had happened there. Needless to say, that created a pretty big rift between the SDA community or the RTA speedrunning community at the time and the burgeoning TAS community at the time. So one of the things that happened out of that was BizQuit came together to create NES videos, now known as TAS videos, specifically with the goal of providing labeling and attribution to identify this is a tool-assisted speedrun, helping to ensure that those kinds of mix-ups wouldn't happen again. So that's kind of the origin of tool-assisted speedruns in general. I saw that video in 2003 and thought it was absolutely incredible. It was captivating to me. Over the next several years, I watched a variety of tool-assisted speedruns, some with my son as he got older and got kind of interested in it too. Got to see the site grow from just NES videos and just NES runs to other types of consoles that had emulation that was sufficiently advanced, and worked with it from there. So at this point in time, I'm now a senior staff member of Test Videos. It's one of the hats I wear. And under that hat, I am a senior ambassador for the site. And when I'm active and healthy, I help promote tool-assisted speedrun content in that sense. But the TaskBot side, that's a whole other story. So
I
I'll
see.
pause for a second because that was a lot.
Yeah. So when you first saw that, did you know it was tool assisted? Or were you with everyone
No,
else? Yeah.
um, but I did work it out fairly quickly because it was just too incredible to. It didn't take a lot of reading to understand that there were other records of Super Mario Brothers 3 at the time, human records, that I could watch on Speed Demo's archive, and they were nowhere near as fast. And then it was a pretty quick logic jump to work out. Okay, this is what had happened. And then I found Radix ranting about how he felt that this was cheating and sullying speedrunning. It was basically creating confusion and making their lives harder, and that was just not something that he wanted. Now there was healing later on, but we'll get to
I
that.
see. Okay. And it's interesting because I've actually had quite a number of people here because I always ask the first thing is what got you interested, what got you started. So, many people have said that video.
Really
Oh yeah,
interesting.
many.
Ah, that's funny. So it did get widely distributed, but because of that lack of attribution, it also caused a lot of confusion and
Hmm.
complexity because a lot of the other content out there, especially at the time, routing was not nearly as well rigorously thought out in some cases. We were still in the Wild West, the infancy of trying to find a lot of the glitches that we now take for granted, even for older games. Heck, a lot of the methods that are used in modern routes weren't discovered in 2003 at all. Most of it was much after that. So it was kind of the Wild West where a lot of discovery was happening at that time across the board. I would say, though, that although it was controversial at the time, it did help highlight something that is now almost taken for granted. A TAS allows you those tools to be able to back up and try again as many times as you like. So you can find glitches that are then incorporated into RTA runs. And RTA routing is frequently referenced when plotting out the course to take for a TAS. So at this point, we're now seeing a really good bit of symbiosis between the SDA, or I shouldn't say SDA at this time. No offense to anyone who still does participate in the SDA community. You have my honor, but most people are not submitting to SDA these days. The RTA community and the task community are now much more symbiotic than they've ever been before.
Hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people, at least in my community, that are good at both actually, and it's because they want to like find stuff that can be then RTA viable. So yeah,
Yeah,
I I was never really aware of a time where they weren't, I guess.
it was a really big problem for a good decade, from about 2003 until roughly 2014. Um, and I don't want to toot my own horn and say that I had something to do in changing that, but I probably did.
Incredibly possible. You can still hear me, right?
Thread would you like to pull on?
Oh, sorry. I keep thinking I have audio issues. Maybe I'm in my own head, but
Ah,
oh, well, let's see. I joined in 2017, so I'm guessing I missed out on the not intertwined era. So I know nothing about what it was like back then.
you
So
said you joined in what year? 2013?
2017,
2017. Ah, yes.
yeah. And I did not know TASs or RTA until that year, pretty much. Like I knew nothing. Just
And now you're running a podcast with over 100 episodes, so congrats.
yes, things happened. That's for sure. I mean, we all got to
I
start
know how
somewhere.
accidents happen. Yes. Yeah.
Shoutouts to Summoning Salt. You know,
Ah, yes.
that's
I'm
another.
in that Discord.
Yes, that's another kind of his videos are another like. Oh, that's how I found out. I mean, that's how I found out. But yeah, a lot of more like modern era runners found out through that, and then a lot of classic runners I've had on found out through the one task. So there's always some starting point, and a lot of people share the same kind of starting points sometimes.
Speaking of starting points, can I talk about how TaskBot started?
Of course.
In 2013, I wanted to do something at an Awesome Games Done Quick event. AGDQ held a special place in my heart, largely because at the time, well, still the case now. The winter events, the Asking Games Done Quick events, were benefiting the Prevent Cancer Foundation, and I had just been dealing with a friend who had gone through a cancer diagnosis at the time. I wanted to do something to contribute, so I started practicing trying to speed run. Of all things, this is such a bad idea. Um, do you remember the Incredible Machine from the '90s, which became Contraption Maker?
I feel like I've heard of it, but I know next to nothing.
Well, I started trying to mess around with that one, and then
Hmm.
decided, okay, there's not really a ton of options here. So then I pivoted, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll do it with Scribblenauts. I'll do it with Scribblenauts Unlimited. And then I discovered how bad I was running a mouse super fast. My Doom deathmatch speedrunning days were where I was submitting speedruns to Captain Mallow's bots page in 1998 and 99. Were long behind me by that point, and my mouse reflexiveness was heavily degraded. So when I realized how bad I was going to have to struggle to be able to submit a normal speedrun, I opted to pivot and look back at all of the time I'd spent with TAS videos. I had submitted my first TAS in 2008, I believe, after I'd been working on it for several years. It was an NES game called High Speed. It was a pinball machine emulator that I happened to own the physical pinball machine for and wanted to make a TAS out of. So that was my debut on TAS videos. I had a couple of TASs by that point and realized, hey, there's probably an opportunity for showing this at the event. I discovered that folks like Micro 500 and other interesting experimenters had worked on making replay devices, a device that can play back a series of button presses made in an emulator on a real console. And there had been some TASs shown off at Games Done Quick, at the Summer Games Done Quick 2011, I believe. It was unreliable and kind of a rough presentation, largely because that was in the very early days of GDQ. Very, very early days. They were not yet the production they are now. So uh, I wanted to submit something, and I did. Um, I spoke with a variety of folks in the forums and got some flack, actually.
Hmm.
I talked about wanting to submit a tool-assisted speedrun to uh, AGDQ 2014, and a couple of folks said, we don't want that task crap here.
Ooh,
It
drama.
was a very frosty, oh yeah, it was a very frosty reception at first. But a couple of administrators with green names on the SDA forums piped up and said, well, let's give it a shot anyway. Let's hear them out.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I made a pitch of stuff we could show, and they accepted it. And then it became a mad dash of making it happen. I worked with Micro 500 and someone named True, who made an NES SNES replay device we ended up playing with. A bunch of other folks, including Masterjun. I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly. After all these years, you'd think I'd get it right. Masterjun. Let's go with that. A bunch of other folks. P4 Plus 2 was involved, and we made a couple of presentations at AGDQ 2014 that to this day have really broken a few brains because we didn't just play Super Mario World, we broke it. With the help of those incredibly talented folks, we managed to put Snake and Pong inside of Super Mario World using nothing but button presses. And it got Ars Technica coverage and got a lot of press. But I think the thing that really helped is I didn't just show tool assisted speedruns, I specifically made it something that was being played by a mascot. I picked TaskBot after being informed that my first name for our little robotic buddy was a terrible idea. The initial name was Robberry Pie because it was a Rob with a Raspberry Pi attached to it with
Mm.
various different fastening methods. Um, I got told that that name was bad, and then Mecha Richter popped up with the name TaskBot in a forum post, and the name stuck. So that's how TaskBot was born. And Ars Technica covered the arbitrary code execution demonstration we showed in Super Mario World, and the rest is history. That was in 2014, and more than 10 years later, we've now helped raise over $1.5 million at just GDQ events alone. It's been an incredible journey.
Wow. So that was the first one, huh? I mean that was played back on original consoles even back then, right? That
Oh,
was
yeah,
all,
yeah.
yeah.
Anytime it says TaskBot plays, it's something we've actually done on console. There
Okay.
were a few cases where it was necessary for marathon safety to present an encode, which we most recently did do at AGDQ 2024. And when we do that, we have it as TaskBot presents or presented by TaskBot.
I see. Okay.
Largely
Okay.
because the TaskBot community now is so large that it's it's kind of hard to define what TaskBot even means anymore. It's not just me. There's a lot of other folks involved. As you
Mm.
can see behind me, a TaskBot is back here blinking. The animations were made by a different person than the person who made the eye board itself, who was different than the person who designed the 3D model, who was different than the person who 3D printed him. It's a very complex endeavor. So the TaskBot name is a little bit convoluted because it refers to both the community and to our cute little mascot back here. But nevertheless, we did want to make it very clear that most things we do are TaskBot really connected to a real video game console, doing nothing more than button presses. But when we do something together as a community that isn't that, either for safety or because of practicality, we make sure we represent that appropriately and declare that it is an encode rather than just try to cheat.
Okay. I actually didn't know about that distinction, so that's good information to have. Never put that
Yeah,
together.
that's why we were very upfront about it being an encode at AGDQ 2014 or 2024 when we played Super Metroid and
Mm.
had a bid war going back and forth. In fact, we actually did it a little bit mistake on my part. We had it directly connected to the tracker, and we had been doing a lot of testing on making sure that we
Ooh.
could directly follow what the incentive was for save versus kill the animals. Um, but in our testing, we had it set to a lower value than I was supposed to use for the actual presentation. It was supposed to only update every minute, and it was set to update every second.
Oh.
So, uh, what was happening on stream of who was ahead was faster than the tracker was displaying in GDQ's own overlay. That was
Hmm.
not that was a mistake on my part. I have apologized profusely.
Interesting.
But yeah, it would detect what was going on and it would show the correct video. The way we did that, as a very brief aside, because you have some familiarity with OBS, you'll appreciate the silliness. We
Mm.
had the tracker directly connected to to shuffle the order of scenes within a scene. We had two scenes that themselves were videos playing, and it would shuffle the priority of which one was on top and which one had audio muted,
Hmm.
so that it would. We started both encodes simultaneously, one that saved the animals and one that killed the animals, and played both at the same time. And whichever encode was in the lead is the one that would get shown in that moment. Because they are completely identical to the moment it diverged, it didn't make any difference until we got to that divergence. And I think we ended up. Did we save the animals or kill them? I don't remember.
Oh.
Actually, we've done it a few times now. I've actually forgotten. um, but we did lock in a specific point where we kept the winning submission. Uh, if you don't mind me going off on yet another tangent, can I talk about why we had to use an encode for Super Metroid?
Sure.
All right. Props.
Mm.
This is a Super Nintendo, and its Japanese brethren, the Super Famicom.
Mm-hmm.
These wonderful consoles have an interesting characteristic. There are actually two separate clocks in this thing. Uh, the Super Nintendo was a significant step up on the graphics front from the original Nintendo, and it also had significantly better audio, going from mono to stereo. But to do that, they had to create a separate sound chip, whereas the Nintendo had a single clock and was a much simpler design. The Super Nintendo actually did quite a bit more. One of the things that they had to do for the Super Nintendo was create a separate chip, a daughter board, for the audio processing unit. So on Super Nintendos and Super Famicoms, there's a main processor running in the 21 megahertz range and an audio processor running at 24.576 megahertz. The difference between those two is the main clock running the main CPU at 21 megahertz is an actual quartz crystal. The audio processing unit is a ceramic oscillator. The reason that matters is the ceramic oscillators are known to be prone to changes over time. If you've ever heard of hot plate percent,
Of
there's
course.
something to be said about that. Um, for any Super Metroid speedrunners, I want to tell you, you are not crazy. Sometimes the game does do something different even when you've done everything the same.
Hmm.
Specifically with Super Metroid, there's a particular characteristic about how that hardware interplay works that causes significant problems. The way a pseudorandom number generator works is it has to have some seed of input that goes into some kind of algorithm that then spits out a random number. But if you control all sources of entropy, all of the seeds to that pseudorandom number generator's input, you will always get the same output from that pseudorandom number generator. In the
Like frame
context,
rules. Sorry.
very much.
I just
It's,
had to bring it
so
up.
you're at a bus station, and okay.
Ah, yes.
Um, Anyway, well, in the context of Super Mario World, well, let's use Super Mario Brothers 3,
Okay.
Hammer Brothers
Hmm.
on the playfield. If you had superhuman ability and you pressed every button exactly the same way on every single frame, the Hammer Brothers would not be random. But anyone who's
They
ever
do that
played
in the
Super
speed
Mario,
run, actually. The early hammer manipulation. They literally do that.
yep,
Just
yeah, it's crazy.
it only matters like when you end the level, like what frame you end the levels
Correct.
on. So you need to just avoid lag and then hit the frame perfects. And yeah, then
Yeah,
the
for
RNG is negated.
yeah,
Mhm.
for that one, yes, exactly. Um, but in the context of Super Metroid, it's much worse
I bet.
because if okay, so think of it this way: you enter a room and you have enemies that are going to move in a specific pattern. What if it takes one extra frame for you to get through that door? Suddenly, the enemy pattern changes because the outcome of the pseudo random number generator changed because you're now on a different frame. Even if you had exactly the same button presses up to that point, because there was one extra frame, it changed the behavior. If you, as a Super Metroid runner, are sometimes experiencing unusual things that you're not expecting, that might be why. It might not necessarily just be cosmic rays. In the
Mhm.
context of a task playback, this is catastrophic, right?
Mhm.
Now, the reason that that's happening in Super Metroid is those two clocks I was mentioning in the Super Nintendo. You have the main clock that's running off of a quartz crystal that's relatively stable, and it's not too jittery, not too many parts per million deviation. The audio processing unit's clock, the APU's ceramic oscillator, it's all over the place. It will change as the temperature increases. We did significant measurements over how much that increase was recently as part of a project on Blue Sky. A bunch of results got put together. We put together some charts on Grist where you can see the average rise. Measurements that were done 2 decades ago seemed to imply that they were running slower, but I later had to retract that assertion based on a lack of data. We didn't have enough data from 2003 to say that they're increasing in speed over time, just that the average speed we measured is faster than the stated clock speed from Nintendo's own documentation.
Mhm.
Nevertheless, the result of all of that variability is inconsistency.
Mhm.
You transfer data from the ROM through the CPU to the audio processing unit at the edge of a door transition in Super Metroid to load the next area's music, for instance, and sound effects. When that's happening, the way Super Metroid's logic works means that the main game will wait for that process to completely finish before it moves on. If the APU doesn't signal, okay, I'm done fast enough, the window where it needs to draw the frame hits. It's a non-maskable interrupt triggers that says I have to draw the frame right now, and it misses the bus. Sorry, I know it had to happen.
Of
Um,
course.
and it moves on and completes on the next frame. You have an entire lag frame where the game doesn't pull for input, doesn't pull the controller for input or do anything with that, um, and everything is offset by one frame. For a task that must be deterministic to always get those Hammer Brothers, for instance, to move in exactly the same way throughout the entire task, the entire playthrough, that's catastrophic. We
Mhm.
can't have that happen.
That's what
So
desyncing is, right?
we desync, and you
Mhm.
see things like Mario derping in the corner or Samus doing impolite things to a wall.
All right.
So yeah, that's the gist of it.
Mhm.
Anyway, there are certain circumstances where it's very difficult for us to get that deterministic playback to be able to do something on stage, and it's just much better and much safer to show an encode.
Mhm.
Or we have to use other methods, as we did with Super Metroid itself over half a decade ago, more than that, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, where we deliberately showed a safe method where we shoved Samus deliberately into a corner to like align things and went through sections very, very slowly. It was actually slower than SDA read,
Hmm.
but it was the only way we could get to where we needed to. And we triggered an ace and replaced Samus's gun graphics with hearts and some other silly things. But anyway, go watch it yourself. It's worth
Of course.
it.
Well, yeah, I know some consoles are like more finicky than others. Obviously, Super Nintendo very finicky, but yeah, I
uh,
just remember
yeah.
desyncs being very possible for a lot of things.
There are some things we will just never try. A
Hmm.
disk-based system is a good example. We just don't try because there's no way that you're going to put that disk in the spindle or on the spindle motor exactly the same orientation every time, that the spindle motor will spin up the exact same speed every time, that the laser will behave exactly the same, especially as it heats up, ambient temperature changes. The throughput is never going to be consistent. We're just not going to try. So then it
Yeah.
becomes a question of, well, how many hardware modifications are acceptable and allowable to still be authentic to the original hardware? For instance, with this, we've tried replacing the APU with a more consistent clock. We didn't quite get the results we were expecting because of some other characteristics that we didn't know about at the time, and we're still working on that problem. Current path forward is to effectively use a single clock that will be used for both the main CPU and the audio processing unit, using the reference from Nintendo, basically restoring the hardware back to what it was supposed to be when they wrote the specification, which we figure is probably acceptable levels of tampering with the hardware, because we're not actually changing the hardware away from what it was supposed to work or how it was supposed to work. We're restoring it to what the game developers were told the hardware behavior would be. But it's still a modification we would have to disclose. And how many modifications do you want to do before you're like, okay, it's no longer the ship of Theseus anymore?
Yeah, and at a certain point, you could just at that point do the encodes, right? So.
At a certain point, I'll give you an example. I have I'm going to grab one more console here. Stand by. Anyone recognize this?
Analog something. NT Mini?
This is an analog Super NT. This is the
Super
Super
NT.
Nintendo
That's
variant.
right.
So this one is an FPGA implementation, and I worked with the original folks who helped create the. They did a lot of PLL stuff and a lot of other various methods in the FPGA to create different clock speeds for different internal components and whatnot. Without getting into too much complexity, the point is that the field programmable gate array method that they used to reproduce the original hardware is pretty compelling, almost too compelling in one sense, because it also emulated some of the things we didn't want, but it introduced its own variations that we can pick up on. The way that they use their timing code in the FPGA's implementation, or in the PLLs, the way they did it, is not consistent enough for us to play a task back on. So even if you have what I don't mean any offense when I say this. This is a hardware clone. I originally thought differently. I now, looking at it in reality, this is a hardware clone at best. It is a very good way to experience older games with new hardware. I mean, oops, as I drop it, uh, the ability to have an HDMI port just coming right out of the back without having to do any OSSC or RetroTink stuff or any kind of upscaling is kind of nice. But at the same time, it's a hardware clone. It's not the same thing as the real hardware.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we do go to that level of change, we now have a different set of circumstances we have to adjust for, a different timings we might have to target. At that point, you're just targeting a different piece of hardware. So,
Yeah.
it's a complicated conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sounds a little too complex for my series.
Yeah,
I'll leave that to the experts.
yeah. Don't worry about it. All I'm trying to say is I'm really authentic to the original hardware because I recognize anything less than that is unacceptable. Partly because if we were targeting our speedruns, our tool-assisted speedruns, to play back on something like that, we're doing ourselves a massive disservice for one thing. and it wouldn't be the same. It's the thing that I think makes TaskSpot playing back these old games the way that we do it that makes it so interesting is it's both nostalgia and amazement in one. It's seeing a game that you played as a kid, looking at that physical cartridge and seeing it get utterly destroyed in ways that are totally impossible for a human to pull off. I think that's probably the magic sauce that makes the TaskSpot aspect stick out from other types of content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you brought up Micro earlier, and I remembered I have this little 3D printed Marty from Mario Kart 64 with his name on the bottom of it.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. You have a what?
3D, the Womp from Mario Kart 64 that's in the cage. It's a little 3D printed
And,
Thwomp guy.
and it was made by who?
Micro 500.
Oh, I didn't realize that Micro 500 made that. That's really cool.
Yep.
Uh, Micro 500 did step out of the community several years ago. I wish him well. I would love to see him come back, but he hasn't been too involved with tasks lately. It's a shame because he was incredibly gifted, and I feel like I did not appreciate that as much as I should have, especially in 2017, for which I have apologized profusely. But yeah, Micro did really good work.
Yes.
Uh,
He gave this
we've
to
had to
me
make
at AGDQ 2019. So,
ah
yeah. I
nice.
still have it, though. It's on my TV.
That's really cool. I still have a couple of his devices around here, laying around. I donated a couple of things to a museum, and yeah, he just does really good work.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, moving on to other topics. As a quick aside, one of the things that's interesting about console verification, the act of playing back a tool-assisted speedrun on a real video game console, is it's basically the same as a player piano.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it in the context of a composer or an arranger sitting down and spending months, maybe even years, putting together a piece of music, they're arranging it and pulling it apart and putting it back together using all of the tools of their trade to do so. In the case of music, that would be writing and maybe rewriting your music out in musical notation. Uh, they then take that piece, put it on a piano roll, and play it back all at once. The player piano just plays one note after another from the beginning of the song to the end, reproducing what that composer created. In the same way, what we're doing with tool assisted speedrun production using an emulator with all of these tools such as frame advance, save states, the ability to snapshot a point in time and go back to it, restoring every single bit of memory and every CPU register, advanced tools like memory search or various different botting methods. All of those tools are just equivalent to the types of tools a composer would use in arranging music. We can even take that analogy even further and refer to it as something like black MIDI. I have a keyboard here.
Mm-hmm.
I've messed around with MIDI a little bit. I'm not very good at it, but I like the concept of black MIDI. Someone named Conlon Nancro in particular was a pioneer in taking that concept of taking music in a piano format and instead of limiting it to 10 fingers at a time, it's kind of along the lines of, well, there's 88 keys on a keyboard. Why don't we give this a little bit more punch? So Conlon Nancro would produce pieces of music that were so complex that it was impossible for a human to realistically play and was much more suited for playback on a player piano. We now call that same art form black MIDI. If you've ever seen Rush E,
Mm-hmm.
there you
Of
go.
course,
Uh,
yes.
But what we're doing when we're playing back a tool-assisted speedrun is effectively the same thing. Instead of playing a series of notes from the beginning of a song to the end, we're playing back a series of button presses from the beginning of a video game speedrun to the end. From the moment we power on the console to the last moment of the run, whether that's when we're intentionally beating the game or whether that's doing really obscene things like putting things inside of Ocarina of Time that we never expected to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works well too because there's like RTA, what do they call it? Like human theory versus, or like RTA possible versus not. Like the good example we have for like NES is the left plus right. Like Task can do that, but you can't do that on an unmodified controller. So that's like, so you'll see like tasks of the same run that have like the full on tasks and then like RTA rules tasks. And the RTA
Yep,
rules is
that's the
like the
thing.
10 fingers, and then the other task is the Black MIDI.
Yeah, that's a really great way of mentioning it. I'm gonna have to steal that idea.
Yeah,
Thanks for
no
yeah,
problem. Happy to do my service, but yeah,
I like that analogy a lot.
yeah. The player piano analogy is one I've always used if I needed to explain it, or the one I've always thought made the most sense.
It's kind of funny because it's gone full circle. When I was started tassing, we didn't really have the concept of piano rolls like we do now.
Hmm.
But now, if you go to most emulators, BizHawk being the most well known at this point, but even FCEUX, and NES emulator and others, there's a piano roll format where you can see all of the button presses in order,
Hmm.
and it's exactly the same format that you would have seen 100 plus years ago.
Instead of punching the hole, you're selecting the input,
Yeah.
and
I
yeah.
recently did a whole video on my YouTube channel about how TaskBot is not AI, which
Hmm.
is if you've been listening to this conversation should be evident by now, but we don't do
Yeah.
anything that's artificial intelligence.
No.
A lot of folks thought that though, especially folks who didn't have a lot of experience with the art.
Hmm.
Um, so I made the video to kind of explain that a little bit. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's worth watching that video. I dive into some of these topics even more.
Yeah, AI isn't actually very good at video games, so
No, it's terrible.
that's the distinction. Yeah, you'd see a lot worse gameplay if it was AI. No, I mean it's incredible that everything you see at TaskBot playback, humans put that all together and figured all of that out on their own with like tool
Tools,
helps.
but yes, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
usually building on a lot of other folks before us. The list
mhm.
of for folks who have not seen Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time Beta Showcase, also known as Triforce Percent, uh, you should pause here because I'm going to start spilling spoilers.
Oh no.
Um, I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was from AGDQ 2020. I'm sorry, SGDQ 2022. It's
Mhm.
been enough time that if you haven't seen it yet, it's time.
I've
It's on
seen
my
it.
YouTube channel. Yeah, it is mind bending, but
Yeah.
that took 24 people over 2 years to put together. And if it wasn't for Soren doing so much effort as our director, it never would have come to pass.
Mhm.
So this, it's yeah. And we when we were putting together the credits for that, we realized the credits just kept going because we were building on stuff that was done because of disassembly done by another team, which was based on work done by a prior team, which it just kept going back farther and farther. So we stand on the shoulders of giants for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know you could credit maybe even hundreds of people at this point for so many things in the community. Like,
Attribution is super crazy important to me because I recognize I'm here as the presenter and organizer, the kind of the main person deriving a lot of the effort, but that doesn't mean that I'm responsible for what people are seeing. Most of the
mhm.
time, I'm not. I have been able to show a few of my own tool-assisted speedruns at charity events, and it's been amazing. But most of the content I've shown, it's content I've presented that was a team effort with a lot of people.
Mhm. And is that like credit documented? Like,
We're doing everything we possibly can to fill out the tas.bot website. So if you head on over to tas.bot, there's a wiki that we're actively looking for volunteers to help us flesh out. Just trying to ensure that everyone has appropriate attribution, that we haven't left anybody out. We were not as good about this in earlier years, and frankly, it's still a struggle even now. But it's super important to me because
mhm.
it's there's actual humans behind all of this effort. It's not AI.
Oh yeah. And I had the website. I have like some social media credits on stream. That's what I linked. So that was my very good segue into having you shout that out. I I'm just good that way. No, but something I definitely want to go into is just like at this point I think go over the history of the showcases that TaskBot's done. We talked about the first one and a little bit about the last one, but there's a lot in between as well.
There's so much in between.
Oh yeah.
There are so many highlights that I find it's better for me to pause for a second and redirect the question. Which
Mhm.
ones do you know about and want to talk about? Because I can talk about all of
I mean,
them.
I'd be happy for you to talk about all of them, but if you want to know the ones I've definitely seen, um, the Pong and Snake that you mentioned,
Mhm.
um,
you
The
remember
Mario.
what came next chronologically?
No,
Yeah.
not at
Go
all.
for it. What's next in your mind?
The ones I've seen Brain Age, of course. I've seen the
Yeah.
Mario 3 uh arbitrary code execution. The the one. I remember the Mari 0.
Yeah, that was fun.
Um Obviously the Ocarina of Time at 2022. Um I've seen one of the Mario Kart 64 ones, maybe even multiple.
Well,
I
which
saw
ones
the
do you want to talk about?
ABC showcase at the most recent like task showcase.
That actually was not us.
Yes, I know. I'm actually good friends with the ABC community, so
Oh, they're great folks, and
I was on
Archon
the back
is
couch for that.
amazing.
I did
Nice.
not
Those guys are great.
commentate, but yes, no. Yeah, I talk with them all the time. Not about ABC stuff. I'm not smart enough for that, but I'll leave that to the experts, as I always say. But no, it's a great community there, and I'm glad they got to showcase that finally. But yeah, I know that was a different project. I think that's all the tasks I can list off
Which
that I.
ones intrigue you the most that you want to talk about on your show? Because I can talk about any of those.
I mean, again, I'm perfectly happy with talking about everything that's been showcased. It doesn't have to be in the full detail, but like
Well,
anything.
let's touch on Brain Age for a second because it was
Yes,
so
and I did
impactful.
see a Pokemon one too, Pokemon Ace. But
Yes.
yes, I think I've
Yeah,
covered everything I've definitely seen.
nice.
So
Brain Age, I
quite a
want
bit.
to pause for a second because that was Micro 500's effort almost entirely, and it was such an amazing presentation. We were able to involve so many people from the Task Videos community in ways that we haven't really been able to recapture since, partly because I think we burned everybody out. But Micro 500 in particular, especially burned out for that. Um, it's a kind of a bad segue, but at the same time, kind of a meaningful time to say it. The run after Brain Age that we did that was also significant burnout that kind of wrecked everything for a long time was HDQ 2017. If you haven't seen that one, you're not alone. It's one of our lesser known things, despite being the most technologically advanced things we ever did. Um, we placed a Skype call over a Super Nintendo and two Nintendo consoles.
Oh, I do remember someone like carrying a console and like a webcam or something.
Yeah, it got out of control.
I see.
I have serious regrets about that. I definitely damaged a lot of folks by pushing too hard, and
Mm,
I learned a lot in that process and grew as a person. But yeah, there was too much we did in that run. It was too mind bending to be even comprehended, and the magic curtain went beyond magic to just being confusion.
I see.
But that's okay. Maybe someday we'll have a better opportunity to explore that one. But Brain Age, though, that one was kind of the pinnacle of Micro 500's efforts to just do amazing art, and really it was all of the components we had done before. We'd previously put Twitch chat inside of Pokemon, but putting Twitch chat inside of a Nintendo DS screen live was crazy, and
That so
it was
that
legit. We
was
really did do that.
definitely real.
Yes, that was not faked. The reason we paused for a second is because we were checking through it to make sure the comments didn't have swears in them.
Ah, okay. I was gonna ask. All right, that makes sense. I thought it just
Yeah.
took that long to load, but no, there was. I see.
Yeah, no, we were just making sure that we we did
We.
we had already been chastised because the first time we had a swear filter, people put spaces in between word letters and were still
Ah.
able to sneak and like they dropped the N word in there and a few other things.
Ooh,
So we
no.
didn't want that to happen.
I see. That makes sense then. That
That's
didn't happen
also
on
why
stream, wait, right?
yes, it did.
Oh
Yeah, if you go
no.
back and look,
Oh
if you
no.
look carefully at Pokemon Plays Twitch, it goes by so fast you can't tell because we were streaming Twitch chat directly through the controller ports of a Super Nintendo with a Super Game Boy in it with a copy of Pokemon Red, which we had taken control of all three of them. It was a
Hmm.
little bit crazy, but chat went absolutely wild, and they were not in subscribe only mode back in those years.
Ah, yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, we've broken chat so many times at this point that I don't actually want to recount them all.
I see.
I have personally apologized to Twitch devs and support.
I see. Fair enough. But yeah, that one sticks out a lot. I think it's the most viewed.
It is
Yeah,
still amazingly,
definitely.
but that's not for any effort on my part. That's very much Micro 500's work. Uh, I don't even want to try to take credit for any of that.
And then I know
I
a
will
lot of
take.
artists as well. I know that one was good because you could have all the credits at the end because it was you could draw them. So there was a lot of credits at the end.
Yeah, yeah, that was interesting. I
Mhm.
think though it's worth pausing and getting into that spoiler now because I think the run that we have to talk about is Triforce Percent.
Yes, I do remember that one.
Um, that one's very special to me for a variety of reasons. Partly because we were in the post-pandemic recovery phase at that point, and all of us had been working together remotely over the course of the pandemic, trying to put this run together. If you haven't seen it, again, go watch it now because I'm about to spoil the living daylights out of it.
SGDQ
You
2022 Taskbot Showcase.
Yeah,
Ocarina of Time.
if you look up Ocarina of Time Triforce Percent, the best encode we have is on my dwangoAC channel on YouTube. I'd love it if you'd like and subscribe. No, I can't do it. I can't do
I
it.
see.
Anyway,
We'll save that for
but
the
we
end.
did
Don't
put
worry. I'll link everything.
we did put the highest quality encode up on that. And there's also a shorter 10-minute version if you don't want to watch through the whole thing that just puts the highlights together. But I encourage you to take an hour of your time. It's just under an hour long, 58 minutes long. Uh, it is the most impactful thing we have ever done and may ever be able to do. I don't know how to sell it any better than that. Um, One of the aspects that I think was so special about Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Beta Showcase, now known as Triforce Percent, is that it was impossible for us to do just as a TAS or just as RTA. When I talked about that symbiosis and that parasympathetic relationship of how the two communities have started to work together so much in the last decade, this is probably the best definition I can come up with about it because there was no way to do this run as just a task. All of those elements I talked about randomness and non deterministic behavior, the motes in the air in Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time in the forest, all have their own randomness to it. There are so many random calls that it is impossible for us to manage it all. There's just too much chaos. The only way for us to get through those sections is with human effort. And in the context of how we presented it, we very much leaned into the Triforce motif, with save state acting um, as our strength, effectively. With um, I think we referred to Soren as our courage for putting it all together, and me as the wisdom, but it might have been the other way around. I actually forgotten now. Either one would necessarily be wrong. It was definitely an interesting circumstance of the three of us being on stage, each representing a different element of the Triforce in our own way. But we had to have both a human and taskbot to pull that off. Save state played through to the point of triggering an arbitrary code execution method, a use after three exploit known as stale reference manipulation in the OOT community. And using that glitch, we were able to execute input directly from the controller ports, at which point taskbot connected to controller ports 2, 3, and 4 took over and started loading data into memory on the side while we showed off actual content that really was beta content left on the cartridge and used an exposition time of wandering through the forest to load a large amount of data into the N64's expansion pack memory. The original Ocarina of Time did not use the expansion pack memory, whereas Majora's Mask did. So we were able to use the entirety of that expansion pack for our own needs and ended up filling a good 2/3 of it
Wow.
with data. Over the course of that hour, we showed off several real things that really were in the cartridge, real beta elements, such as the R-Wing and the Great Beta Fairy and a giant purple rupee that was in memory. But we also wove together a story of lore, brought in elements of 1990s era conspiracy theories and various different elements incorporated elements from Nintendo themselves that they showed in promotional videos prior to the game's release, including the Triforce Room, and pulled all of it together into a cohesive story that led to an ending that part I won't spoil. Um, we brought a piece of the future into the past, and everything we did was on an original cartridge, on an original console, with the only modification being an RGB mod for better video quality that did not impact the way that the console behaved in any way. Trust me, I know that for a fact. I can say that with authority. Um, and we were able to do something at the end that allowed everyone who had spent an entire pandemic's worth of time separated to come here together. And to this day, that here together motif of allowing people in Twitch chat to say those words and see it appear on screen in real time behind the characters in that scene, that moment of feeling like you were together, even though everyone was distributed around the world, was the most moving thing I've ever done. It was slightly broken because we had so many messages going through Twitch chat that it was running them all at once and then just stopping in a completely empty screen and then doing it again. There wasn't anything we could do about it because we just completely broke Twitch. Not for the first time.
Not for the last time.
But possibly not for the last time. But it was just so incredibly impactful. And at the end of the day, everything we did helped raise over $228,000 for Doctors Without Borders in just that 1 hour of content. So it was absolutely positively worth it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to hear like kind of the background behind it because yeah, I just remember it being this incredible like if there's one thing I know people talked about after that event, it was that. Like that was probably the
Yeah, for
highlight
good
of
reason.
that event.
Although everyone kept asking us, how did you get voice acting in there? Gosh, okay. Took a lot of explaining. The same way Hey Listen happens.
Yeah, I mean, not the question I would ask personally. I was a little impressed by some of the other stuff involved, but okay.
Ask away.
Oh, I was just saying. I was making a joke about people. The takeaway was asking how voice acting instead of like all the other numerous stuff. But
Well, yeah, that the number of people who thought, oh, wait, all of this really was in the original cartridge? No, we didn't say that. We even said that. Okay.
yeah, some of
Okay.
it
We
was
tried.
in the cartridge.
Yeah,
Well,
anything that we said was beta content really was beta content in the cartridge. We were very, very clear. We just did a bunch of other stuff that we didn't say was beta content that went above and beyond.
yes, of
At,
course.
at, which, at which point, we had people from the audience at one moment yelling, "What?" when we actually showed the Great Beta Fairy.
Yeah. Um, won't be the
That was
first.
fun.
Wasn't the first. Won't be the last time people are confused. That's just how it is.
Well, we did our very best to try to explain it, and we also had a full behind the scenes from Retro Game Mechanics Explained. Isofreeze did an amazing job on that. You can see a breakdown of all of the technical aspects of that. I also gave a DEF CON talk on how we did some of the data manipulation. Yeah, there's lots of data about how we did it. The website gettriforce.link is still up if you want to find any of those technical details. Unfortunately, we cannot distribute it. Although it is nothing more and nothing less than button presses, the process of creating those button presses was a little bit more problematic. So while Nintendo would have a rather hard time actually doing anything meaningful, considering when we powered off that console on stage, because it's volatile memory, everything just suddenly disappeared. If you turned that console right back on, you'd be right back in a normal game with no modifications whatsoever. Although we were able to present it without any legal concerns, we felt it was highly unsafe to attempt to distribute it. So, unfortunately, it's not possible for anyone to play, although a leak did happen that we're aware of. But,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, well, we had so many dozen people that had access to the repository. Apparently, somebody pulled it, but yeah, we have nothing to do with that release, and it doesn't represent the final release, and we try to mention its existence sparingly.
Well,
But acknowledging that it exists is about as far as I'll go.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even like consider the legality of the work of any of this work. But I guess
We're at
Nintendo is a
major
bit
risk.
finicky with this kind of stuff
Well,
in
we've
recent.
helped raise over $1.5 million, but that does not stop Nintendo's lawyers from suing their own fans. I love
No, it doesn't.
Nintendo, and yeah, I love Nintendo dearly. It's my first console that I worked incredibly hard for. My start, I joked earlier about I started at a very early age, but my start was not so auspicious. It was kind of not normal or even fun. I really wanted to be able to play Super Mario Brothers 3 back in the day when it came out. And all I had was an Atari that my parents had gotten from some multi-level marketing scheme that they sat through.
Mm,
I had an Atari that did not have any of the games I wanted to play on it. So I worked all summer because I only had enough money to buy either the cartridge or the console, not both. So I used my money to buy the cartridge. I had a boxed Super Mario Brothers 3 original release. All I could do was smell it and read the instruction manual back when they actually had those. And I spent all summer working, doing odd jobs to get enough money to buy a Nintendo. I was a very early fan as a kid, and I got it. My parents finally got over their fear that it was all Dungeons and Dragons Satanism.
okay.
Well, that was a common thing in the 80s. A lot of folks in my community were paranoid, and because there was a Dungeons and Dragons game released on the Nintendo console, and because Dungeons and Dragons was of the devil,
Mm,
that therefore you couldn't have it at all. And anyway, it was all fear. It was just fear. People didn't know.
I see.
But that was the 80s for you.
Yeah, I was not around back then, so I missed out
Sorry.
on the drama.
I'm 45 right now.
I'm 26.
Okay, yeah. I'm old. Anyway, long and the short of it, I guess backing out a little bit, there were so many elements of the Triforce Percent run that were so impactful, and we didn't want Nintendo to get too upset. So we were very careful with how we presented it. We actually toned down the original message. We have dialogue directly from Link with voice acting, and that was extraordinarily controversial. But if you think it's controversial now, you should have seen our original script, which was much more on the nose of having the character directly address Nintendo and be like, "Hey, stop suing your fans."
Oh. Oh my
So,
god.
um, it
Okay.
wasn't the exact wording. It was a little more polite, but that was effectively the message we were originally going with. And
Oh my god.
after after some conversations, we decided maybe that was not the best course of action, and we slightly changed it. And the here together thing came together naturally, and it was a better choice. So,
Yes. Wow. That is fascinating lore.
so yeah, that's some hidden lore.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I appreciate that message as well, but I think the end result was more impactful, so that's good.
Probably.
At least more
I
positive, we'll go with. A lot more positive.
I don't want Nintendo to sue me, but if they did come after me, I at least I have my conscience. If nothing else, I have my conscience. I know that everything we have ever presented, we have done with full honor, w- true honor. I always buy the cartridges that I work with, even if it's something that I'm showing an encode of. I purchase the game. I make sure that we do everything by the book legitimately in as much as is possible. For instance, I have an Infinite NES Lives reader that I can put my own cartridges into, read the contents of my own cartridge out, which under United States law is a legal backup because it does not trigger any kind of DMCA. There's no encryption. I'm not breaking encryption when I do that. I'm then able to take that backup and operate on it as we're doing the process of creating the tool assisted speedruns. Even with all of that said, what I'm presenting is an abstraction from that. It's almost as if it were clean room reverse engineering. What I receive at the end of the day is nothing more and nothing less than a binary file that demonstrates a series of button presses. In the past, those were R08 or R16M file formats originally developed between Ilari and True and other folks. Now we're using the TASD format at tasd.io, developed by, oh gosh, how many people have been involved in that? Geez. Um, I'm going to use the name Big Bass. There's some other folks that have changed their usernames since then that deserve a ton of credit, but I don't know what name they want used right now. Just know there are a lot of authors that went into that tasty effort, but it's just a file format that defines binary data of button presses. Point is, even if I, for whatever reason, didn't own a copy of the game, I'm just showing back a sequence of button presses. So,
Yeah, technically,
um,
technically anyone could do that, you know?
but so on occasion, I have had to resort to borrowing somebody else's cartridge because it was a game that was just too rare.
Mm.
Sometimes it's just not possible. I don't personally own my own copy of Ataki. Being able to get a copy of that in real life from somebody and use that at a GDQ was really fun to play with. It's kind of a rare game, and it's one I made my own tool-assisted speedrun with. So there are some occasions where it's not feasible for me to get the real game myself to own, but in every regard, I have done everything I possibly can to be above reproach. So if Nintendo were to sue the TaskBot community or me personally for the charity work we've done, I don't think that they would have a great legal leg to stand on, and the optics would be pretty bad, but I don't want to poke the bear any more than I have to.
Hmm. Meanwhile, I do all my speedruns on an EverDrive. Screw you, Nintendo.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I have an EverDrive. I have an FX Pack Pro specifically
Yes.
um, for the Super Nintendo side, and I do speedrun randos. I once have this is such a humble brag, but I can't not mention this. I once won a LTTP rando while giving a panel talk because I made mistakes.
Huh?
Uh, okay, so I was running a stream. I was trying to do too many things at Mag West. I did Mag West Go, I think it was, and I was supposed to also give a panel talk, but then we took on this entire live stream speedrunning event that it ended up being called Mag West Go at Mag West 2019, and we got behind schedule um, for a rando that I was running in, an LTTP rando, and it ran so late that my panel talk was supposed to start before we finished the run, and I didn't realize that we were that late. So someone came on, someone named Majestic, someone I miss from the community dearly, and I hope to get back in touch with at some point. But Majestic came on and said, "Oh, your panel talk is supposed to be starting right now." I'm like, "Oh no!" And Majestic's like, "Don't worry, we have piped your talk directly to the panel room, so there are people there watching this. So why don't you just give your panel talk too?" So I ended up playing an LTTP rando Triforce piece hunt, while giving a panel talk, and somehow managed to eke out a win through sheer dumb luck.
Well, that is a weird flex, but okay.
I know, right? Weird flex. Anyway. So my fails ended up being one of the weirdest wins I've ever had, but it was so dumb. Never should have happened.
Did the talk go well too?
Oh, it was a train wreck. I was all
Oh,
over the
okay.
place.
I mean,
No, it was okay. It was fine. It was fine. I mean, people were entertained, so there is
that's all that
that.
matters, right?
Yeah.
Right. Um, I do want to bring it back to SGQ 2022 because the fun fact is the first time I was ever on the GDQ stage, you were sitting next to me.
Oh, really? I
Yes.
forgot that. Okay, give the backdrop.
Ah, Seth Bling, the Mario All Stars, beat all the games with arbitrary code execution. You
Ah,
were player
yes.
4, I was player 3.
I still have that tape on my controller from that.
Really?
Yep, it's at the studio.
I see. I do not. But
That was
yeah.
a special run for me. For those who haven't watched it, it's worth watching, although it does not go off without a hitch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed with everything that did go
Yeah.
to
And
plan.
hey, both of us can vouch it worked in the practice room.
Like 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Anyway, anyway.
that that old Super Nintendo, it's all its fault probably, with its whatever.
Hey, we talked about it.
Go with that. But yeah, that
Yeah.
that was my first ever time being on the, like, I'm not counting, I had one online run, or I guess two, same event back to back, but like that's not on the stage, right? You're still at home. So
Yeah.
that was my first time on the GDQ stage in any capacity. I had never done commentary or anything up until that point. So yeah,
It was fun doing that. I appreciated it. I didn't realize that was the first time you'd been on the actual stage. So
yeah. And I thought it would be like the only time, and then GDQ's like, yeah, you can have a run in like 4 events in a row or 6, and I was like, okay, that's
what all have you
fine.
run so far? If you don't mind me interviewing you.
I did Mario 1 Wordless one handed into Mario Lost Levels all stages race into just Mario 1 any%, and then did like to the TwitchCon and a PAX West Mario and Nintendo World Championships, and then the Mario any% with the tech that combines all the racers on one screen, and then more Nintendo World Champion. I don't know. It's crazy.
Fun stuff. Well, I got a few more minutes left in me before before I run out of tea for my throat. So feel free to ask whatever.
Oh, I didn't know we were running. I didn't know there was a timer, a tea timer. My bad.
It's not yes and no. My throat hurts.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I
unfortunate.
have an offer.
Oh,
The hand of Defenistam has retrieved for a refill.
I see. Well,
Time extension. Okay, continue.
huge. Um, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up, but I guess we can go over more like highlights from events, and then obviously I know you haven't just done GDQs as you've kind of mentioned a little bit, but yeah, just oh,
1 second. All right.
here it comes.
Hot tea recovered in my giant mug.
Huge.
Yes,
The
slurping into
elixir.
the microphone. Okay. I got distracted. What was your question?
I was just more highlights from live events, I guess, because we've only talked about a couple, and there's been so many.
Yeah. There's been so many. There's a lot of runs that I don't feel have gotten as much attention as they should. And not
Sure.
all of them are GDQ runs either.
Hmm.
One of the runs that I think is more fun than others, even though it's kind of short, is showing off a Dr. Mario run at ESA. I've got it on my YouTube channel because it's just so silly.
Hmm.
Um, it's it's short, it's bizarre, it takes people by surprise, and I completely muck it up 3 times in a row. But beside the point. By the way, if you don't like the idea of being embarrassed on stage, I don't recommend trying to do what effectively amounts to the most complicated live demo you could ever possibly imagine in front of 250,000 people. Do not recommend. Um,
Yeah.
it's, but I'm so used to fail that it was just like, whatever, we'll try again. But that one was a lot of fun because we were able to show off things that it's an obsoleted run that has not been widely shown, which is kind of interesting. Um, it shows a glitch and a way of getting out of the level faster, getting out of the game and ending the game faster than normal that I just felt was unsung. So that one's one of my favorites. Plus, ESA is a wonderful event. If you ever get a chance to travel to Sweden for that event, it is worth it. The summer event is lovely because the weather is great. Try to stay at the real hotel if you can, or the event hotel if you can. It's just a wonderful experience. I think my kids and I both agree that is. I'm getting the wave of confirmation. ESA is definitely our favorite event to travel to. Um, MagFest has been outstanding to us. I was just at MagWest this past weekend. It's the West Coast of Alternative. It's a lot smaller and cozier. Very nice, friendly con, worth going to. But if you're on the East Coast, the enormity of MagFest is hard to convey.
Hmm.
I did a panel talk there where we went over 10 years of crazy runs we've done. So a lot of the stuff that I'd talk about here, we covered in greater detail over the course of that panel talk. So that's a fun one that I've got on my channel. That's worth poking at. Um, but as far as things that we've done at charity events that I felt were really impactful, there's almost too many to pick from. Uh, I really enjoyed Celeste, although it was a totally different presentation because it was so much a different community that had done all of the work, and I felt kind of like I had usurped their effort in some ways. But the Kevin blocks were glorious. There is a sound effect that happens that we swapped out. We recorded it in a hotel room and tossed it in the game with the help of the actual Celeste devs. That was that was so much fun. Having the actual devs of the game get in on some antics was really fun. So that one's a highlight. Um, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the uh, three games, three different consoles insanity. Um, again, AGDQ 2017, it harmed me more than anything in many ways, and I have a lot of regrets. But what we actually pulled off was so incredibly insane that it's just so unsung. I really, the folks that put the effort in need a lot more credit. Ilari in particular, Micro 500 especially for all of his work with the replay device side of that, with the TaskLink work. It was just an incredible presentation. To set the stage, we played through uh, Mega Man and glitched the game with, of all things, Glitch Man, go figure,
Hmm.
and produced an entire TaskBot operating system inside of Mega Man, and then set that aside. Played through Super Mario Brothers 3 and started playing back MIDI, a whole composition made by Fuzzle, and then set that aside. Then we played through Link to the Past and used a bottle glitch in the middle of a doorway to uh, finalize the insanity. Combined all three of them, used that power to then play, and I kid you not, we really did do this. We played the Super Mario 64 TAS. I think it was was it one key TAS, I believe, on a Super Nintendo and two Nintendo consoles. And we really did do it on real unmodified hardware. It looked insane,
Hmm.
but we really did do it. The only way to functionally pull that off, however, was to use every last CPU cycle to shove data through the controller ports in just the right order to display on screen with the SNES processing capabilities. We managed to get to, I think, about 15 frames per second, 10 to 15. I think we locked it at 10 at the end of the day. Using a rotating palette, because you can only have 256 different colors on screen at the same time with the Super Nintendo. So Micro 500 put together this incredibly complex palette rotation method. We basically played a video.
I was
And then
gonna say.
used the two Nintendo consoles to play mono audio, left audio, and right audio, and combined all three of them to play Portal. We
Uh-huh.
played Portal on the Super Nintendo, but we didn't adequately explain what we had done, and it confused a lot of people. Um, we could have presented it better, and I have a lot of regrets about how we went about that. But from a technological standpoint, that was the most insane thing we have ever done from how hard it was. We've done a lot of other things, but that one was, from a technological standpoint, the craziest tech demo I probably will ever do on stage.
So you you were just playing back video on it, or
Well, there was not enough. So, no offense to the meager hardware on this, but there is the Super Nintendo is wildly anemic hardware for what you see coming out of it. The only way to eke as much as out of it as the game devs did was by writing in direct opcodes, writing assembly basically. Um, we were using all of the oomph possible from that console to show the resolution frames that we were showing. We were shoving as much data as we could in, and the best we could do was just take that and mirror the contents of the data that we had shown in very carefully calibrated order as a frame of video on the screen, using every last bit of processing power the Super Nintendo had. Was the best we could possibly do, and it still was very inferior, but it worked.
well,
So yeah, we passed the actual raw data at a rate of over 1.5 megabits per second over the controller ports.
okay. Jeez. Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I don't think I've seen it. I I,
It's
I
it's
I see
pretty
the
crazy.
confusion. Yeah. Um
Well, it was also because we didn't acknowledge anything we had done for several minutes.
I
So
see.
people were just like, "What the hell are we watching?" We just went straight into the Super Mario 64 commentary, and Tech was in on it. But if I had it to do over again, I would do it very differently. And this is a good time for me to directly address the staff and the tech crew at Games Done Quick. I am so sorry, especially for the times where we showed up and we were not ready. Um, with my biggest apology being the team that was there the year we did Mashbot.
Ash.
With no intent to throw anyone under the bus, if you have not heard of Mashbot, remember how I mentioned Scribblenauts? Well, we actually did eventually play Scribblenauts, but we did it incredibly wrong. Instead of using the same method we had done for Brain Age, we physically stabbed the screen with a stylus repeatedly.
Oh, okay.
We built a device with help from Funkmaster MP and other folks in the community that physically poked the screen with a stylus, and it worked, but we were still calibrating and fixing things as we were walking on stage. It was terrifying getting it working. But we had a lot of jokes about dead lions, so there's that. That is Super Scribblenauts, where we allowed the audience to vote, and the correct answer was then poked in manually on the screen. We did it because some folks felt that using electrical signals to play back input was still cheating, even though we were directly emulating the controller protocol. And in some cases, as you mentioned with the RTA rules, even limiting ourselves to just the buttons that a human could hit simultaneously. But that aside, I would never do Mashbot again, with no offense to anyone involved in making it, partly because it was such a rushed effort and we were just not prepared. I learned a lot of important lessons and then forgot them and made the same mistakes later. But my goal from here on out is to ensure that we have, and for that matter, for the last couple of events, is to make sure we have everything done when we submit. It's okay for us to polish something after we submit to a GDQ event, but it's not okay for us to wholesale still be tweaking something as we're walking up on stage. I never want to do that again.
I have not seen that one. That's for sure. I would have remembered poking physically.
Yeah.
So I'll have to look that one up. Yeah, I'm sure there's still a lot of showcases I haven't seen, just because
Oh, we've
there's
done a lot of them.
yeah.
Now I want to see. Oh, my keyboard died. Hang on. Oh, okay. Let me just wake that up really quick. I want to see really quick what. Let me pull up my browser here really quick. Kind of curious. Let's see, is GDQ VOD still an ongoing concern? Yes, it is. Do they still have runners? I think so. Runners.
Are you on the
Runners.
GDQ Pod's website?
Yes.
Yeah, I've noticed it's been glitching out on me more
It's
often.
a little on the slow side. Yeah, okay. I I just checked. I haven't checked in a while. I have 47 runs on there.
Oh my. Okay.
So if you go to gdqvods.com/runners, and then on the right there's an area that says runs, you can toggle that so it sorts by the number of runs. I'm right at the top.
Wow.
I don't say this to brag, but it is crazy. Anyway, yeah, we have a lot of different runs.
Yeah, okay. I didn't realize. I thought it was like a couple dozen. That's a couple dozen.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
It's a few.
Okay. And that's just GDQ as well. Wow.
Well, yeah, this is just GDQ. Not all of them are of the same level. There's one that is especially painful, which was presented by TyKevin83. Unfortunately, there was a mistake with a laptop power supply. I will not shame anyone here. It was an honest mistake. But Hyper Princess Pitch, the category named Taskbot Really Joel's Mom Difficulty Best Ending,
Okay.
didn't go well.
Ah.
We mercy killed the run because it died halfway through. But we did show it. It's on the list here.
Well, there you go. It counts. Never heard of that one. I'll have to look at the list. I didn't realize I've missed so much content. I know there was a bit, but that's a lot of it that I have not seen.
We've been at it since 2014, and there's a lot of folks in the community. This is a great time to say, if you would like to help us get involved with this process, if you'd like to help in some capacity, even if it's not on stage, come on over to discord.gg/taskbot. That's TASBOT. Discord.gg/taskbot. The Discord community for the taskbot community is definitely our nucleus, our home. I do have some problems with Discord sometimes, so we also have an old school IRC bridge if you want to use that. But anyway,
Good
we
old
have
SRL days.
we have a vacant need for new ideas and new folks working on it. I still want to hack a video game console from a satellite, but that prospect might be sunsetting. No space pun intended.
Hmm.
If we can't break through the encryption in time, so that effort is still on the back burner. And there's lots of other random projects too.
Yeah, I guess I am curious if there were, obviously, maybe don't want to spoil anything, but more TaskBot in the future.
I would like to see that happen. One of the elements that unfortunately it is time to chat about is I have been really sick for
Mhm.
a while now, and it's getting kind of scary. So,
Oh,
um, uh, without getting into detail, I'm going out of state to a specialist hospital next month. We'll see how things go, uh, but it can't be bottlenecked on me. So the TaskBot leadership has discussed creating a 501c3 nonprofit so that things can continue even if I can't. I don't want that to be the case. I love what we do, but I just have to be honest and realistic about what is possible with my health.
mhm. I see.
So uh, we would love new volunteers, new folks who are not burned out. We won't burn you out. We know how not to do that now. um, won't give you more than you can handle, and we'll make sure that we're checking in and making sure that you're not doing things you don't want to do. But we need new leads. We need new content ideas, and we need folks to pitch in and make things happen. Even if you think you might not have any relevant skill, there's always something that we can do.
And there's so many taskers out there now.
Yeah.
I mean,
It.
Task Videos has
Yeah.
got a lot of content on there now.
Yeah, and we're also trying to work in my ambassador context, I guess is the right way to phrase it. I am working toward trying to mend some bridges. There was a time in Task Video's history where the TaskBot leadership was effectively usurped by some strong personalities that had what I consider objectionable views on the world, and it led to some behaviors and some problems. Like we didn't even have HTTPS support. We we had issues we could not resolve with staff, and a lot of communities were pushed away during that era of elitist behaviors. We are so far from that. Uh, but even though we have rehabilitated as Task Video's staff, we haven't necessarily rehabilitated our reputation. So there's a lot of communities that don't yet have a way to find a home on Task Videos, and it is my hope to pull some of those communities in over time, working through some of those challenges.
Hmm. I, yep, definitely remember some things. I won't get into them, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
There were real problems.
That
Yeah.
yes. So I'm glad that things seem to be better off now.
It's a much more inviting and inclusive community with the emphasis on not being discriminatory or racist as a highlight of our new behavior. And by new, I mean 5 years ago at this point,
Hmm.
six. It's
Yeah,
been
it's
six
been a
years now.
while.
Um, it took a long time to recover from that damage.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, bad actors can ruin anything. So just gotta,
Unfortunately.
yeah. All you can do is move on and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I still check in every now and then. Like I'm no tasser, and I probably will never be. It's not my interest, but I just
It's okay.
watching the runs though. Always just very entertaining and very interesting. And I like reading like how they do the stuff. And that's part of why I like the TaskBot stuff because a lot of it can be explained while it's happening. Because you want to have like viewer retention and engagement. So tasking cool. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I have any more like direct questions. I
It's
mean,
okay. I've rambled at length.
yeah,
I'm
which is
I'm
always good. That's what we're here for.
For anybody watching this, thank you for putting up with my meandering and hijacking. I really appreciate it. Um, I am I- I'm really dedicated to ensuring that I'm providing attribution to the folks that did the actual work, and I don't want to think more highly of myself than I ought. It's one of the reasons that I do think it's a good idea to try to get more folks to get involved. One of the things that we do struggle with, though, is I found it difficult to replace myself. It's hard to find someone who can talk about tool-assisted speedrun aspects in front of a camera. There are a couple of folks I'd like to say thank you, though, and that's specifically to the Axeman, who is constantly at RPG Limit Break events and other other Final Fantasy rando events and things like that, representing our community well. Very thankful for him. TechHeaven83 and the rest of the admin team, folks like Taters and Media Magnet and Inverted, who's on staff as well, helping out with the various back end side of things. There's just so many folks that make this happen, and I couldn't do it without them. We do have a lack of folks who specifically are willing to present a task. And it's a different skill. We've managed to pull in folks like Blastermac, who's one of the leads and has a taskbot bod. There are more than one of these guys, but you'll never see more than one at the same time. We
Hmm.
have frames on the East Coast, West Coast, and one in Europe. Um, Never shall two of them be in the same place at the
Hmm.
same time, just like Mythbusters with Buster. But
I see.
um, Blastermac has presented a few runs himself in European events, including BSG and ESA. But we kind of lack anyone to be able to travel to these bigger events and do what I've been doing. And while I've been sick, it's been harder to pull that off. So always looking for more folks who are potentially interested in getting involved in any aspect.
Hmm. Well, I guess, is there anything over the history that we didn't dive into that you'd like to? Is there any topics missed out on? I usually ask this before doing the sign off stuff.
It's okay. I've been a loudmouth and talked about all the things I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
The big broad strokes were all things of just trying to talk about the task videos history and taskbot history. Um, I can say that this has always been so much bigger than anything I ever expected it to be. I went out there expecting to do a run, and in 2016, I even offered for anyone in the task videos community to take on the mantle so that I didn't have to. It's been hard leading
Hmm.
all of this. It has forced me to grow as a person. And although it has been painful at times, I don't think I would give up the growth that I have experienced through this process.
Well,
So I will definitely say that as kind of my parting shot of this has been worth it. It's been hard, but it's been worth it.
that's good. Well, I want you to self promote anything and everything you want. Taskbot yourself, just
Well,
everything.
in as much as I'm able, now this is touchy stuff. In as much as I'm able, I would love to be able to produce more content for my dwangoAC YouTube and Twitch um, environments. But the reality is that I am currently not able to function very well. Um, I'm able to make it through an hour scripted, but not a full day of work at this point. And the reality is that not being able to work for so long has been really hard. Um, this is not me begging, but if you do happen to have the gumption, head on over to acbit.net or acbit.net/donate. Either one. I'm not going to turn down help. It's been pretty rough being unemployed and then on disability, and it's not a fun time. But I hope to get through this. I hope I get something out of the hospital visit next month, and I hope to get healthy. But even if I don't, know that there is going to be a path, some way, somehow, to keep the TaskBot legacy going, because it's not about me.
Well, yeah, there's a big community there, and yeah, just get involved, and then where. So, those are your direct socials. You have a Blue Sky as well.
I do have a Blue Sky. You can find task.bot on Blue Sky, and I am ac.task.bot, I believe. Yeah, or is it
dwangoAC.test.bot.
Duango? I'm sorry, Duango. Sorry, I realized as I said that was wrong. I am dwangoac.task.bot on Blue Sky. I am starting to post a little bit more. Uh, Obviously, we do have all the normal ones, but I'm not on Snap, so you won't find us
Fair.
there. Or I'm glad you laughed at that. I'm also not on Twitter anymore, or X. There were too many things that I felt morally unsteady about. And there was also the aspect of TaskBot having the name bot in the name and getting caught up in all the other bots.
Of
TaskBot
course.
is not AI. Anyway,
True.
uh,
Yeah,
so
there are
there
humans
was,
running the social media too. Shocking.
yeah, we are actively looking for help specifically with social media. Our social media manager has not been able to be active in, well, really years, to be honest, and we actively need help with that. We might return to Instagram. TaskBot technically has an Instagram account, but it hasn't. It's felt increasingly wrong. No offense to Instagram. Well, no, some offense to Instagram actually. Uh, no offense to anyone who actually prefers that as your preferred medium. Our beef is not with you. Our beef is definitely for other things that got zucked up much farther up the chain. So anyway, um, but as far as other socials, I do have a Patreon. It's a definitely something that helps, and I do give folks access to stuff early. Um, yeah, that's the big ones. YouTube and Twitch when I'm able. I hope to find the capacity to be more involved there.
Mhm,
But as always, if you don't want to get involved in any way at all, come on over to discord.gg/taskbot. That's the best place to be.
mhm. I will link the Twitch, the YouTube, the Blue Skies, the website. Also important. Got the website,
I
the
have
Discord.
bored everyone so much. Thank you so
No,
much,
it's
though.
fine. And then just what like the content for Twitch and YouTube, what have you done and would want to do? If you can, of course.
Uh, when I'm streaming on Twitch, I run the most complex Twitch stream that is out there. Uh, in the context of how far I push it, I have had a dozen different video sources on screen simultaneously
Jeez.
and for meaningful purposes too. Um, Watching my streams on Twitch is an exercise in ADHD overload. You have so many options of what to pay attention to at any given time. I'm going to try to resolve some of that, but uh, my son, Defender Sam, piped in. Not if I can help it. Typically, my Twitch streams involve some kind of tool-assisted speedrun shenanigans while I'm testing something out, while one or more people, including potentially myself, are playing other things simultaneously, and I'm constantly rebalancing audio all the time. While people on Twitch chat are doing things like paint by numbers or changing the lights in the background or God only knows what. Um, I look forward to being able to stream again soon. It's been way too long since I felt capable of it. Hopeful for being able to do that again. YouTube, likewise, my content has been spurious lately, but I have some interesting ideas for not exactly explainers, but diving into some of the history of some of this stuff.
Mhm. I did like the
Lots of past about revisited. Mhm.
Taskbot face scan. I did like the most recent video about explaining how Taskbot actually works instead of the
Yeah,
misconceptions some people have. Um,
yeah. TaskBot is not AI.
I know it's crazy stuff, but I think that's the best example of explaining exactly what all of, even just tasking in general is, and then how playing it back on consoles is, how it's actually done, not how people assume it's done. I don't know. The best
Yeah.
analogies, that's the video. And, it just came out, so perfect timing.
Yeah, just put it out. I had to get that out ahead of MagWest, but
Mm.
it worked. It worked. I wish I had had more capacity to do a better job. But some other time, some other attempt. My next videos will be better, right? The
Of
downside of
course.
being a perfectionist,
Mm.
and I know we already did the whole ending thing, but the post ending and ending, it's interesting seeing how the task community draws in perfectionists. It's almost like there's a reason that people would want to be perfect in something. We get a very broad spectrum of folks with different perspectives and thought patterns.
Oh,
Good way
yeah.
to phrase it. But yeah, if you like being perfect, then making a tool assisted speedrun is for you.
Hmm. I prefer my perfection RTA, but You also can't really
Grind
do
it
that.
out.
I think I have like one task tie, you know. Thank you frame rules and like
Nice.
perfect levels and categories that don't really matter. But anyway, I think that's everything.
All right.
I think we
Well,
did
I
it.
have to drop off for the sake of my health anyway, but it's been a
Yes.
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. And I
Yes.
know this is a little bit rambly and different than probably your normal fare, but I hope it's interesting for folks.
No, yeah. I have wanted this for a while, so I'm glad I was able to finally have it happen. And I'm glad you were able to do it despite everything. I know it's been not the best time, but I really do appreciate it because I've wanted this for a long time. So
Well, thanks
thank
so
you
much for
for
having
coming
me
on.
on.
Yes, of
Well, take
course.
care, and I will chat with you some other time.
Of course. And thank you everyone for watching, of course. And, follow for future episodes and all that. You know where to find it by now. We've only done, what did I say, 131? That's a lot.
Three. I think you said 133?
I don't know anymore. I'll
It's okay.
find out when I'm making the thumbnail and title.
Sounds good.
Where I add one to the last number. But
All
anyway,
right, here's your screenshot opportunity.
yay. There's
There's your thumbnail.
taskbar. Beautiful. I'll make sure to use it. All right. I think we're done here, folks. So take care, and I'll see you next time. All right.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.